I love multiplayer games. Whether it's class-based shooters like Garden Warfare 2 or Team Fortress 2, or just building stupid shit in Minecraft, I like having a shared yet unique experience with people I know or don't know. And one of the most unique multiplayer experiences for me is easily Dead by Daylight. I love horror. Being scared is a thrilling experience for me. Probably going with why I also love roller coasters so much, and the thrill and the fear is always something I enjoy. But something I like even more than being scared is being the one causing the fear. If you can't tell where I'm going with this, I like playing Killer in Dead by Daylight. All the killers offer up unique strategies and opportunities. While every killer may be at the basic level the same, their powers, add-ons, hell, even down to perk choice always provides a different experience that always keeps me ready to queue up for another trial. However, with only 94 hours as of recording, I'm still knees deep in my beginner phase. In other games, 90 plus hours could be a sign of you becoming well acquainted with how the game works, and with most online games being shooters, hours don't mean anything as that basic skill level can translate. Not in Dead by Daylight. This is a game unlike any other, and every new player has to learn new muscle memories and new game sense all on the fly from scratch. And that is why most players often consider the point of you being good at the game at only around 1,000 plus hours. I'm not kidding. So as someone who, yes, may have 90 hours in the game, I'm still essentially a baby. Plus, with how much the game updates, any and everything I say in this video could be outdated in a number of months. Hell, as of writing, they just announced 8.1.0 that the Knight is getting a total adjustment to his power, so all the gameplay footage I just recorded from is basically a long-lost relic of time at this point. But to cut my yapping short, Dead by Daylight is a unique game that I love a lot, and today I'm going to be ranking every Dead by Daylight killer from least fun to most fun, from the eyes of a teensy tiny baby beginner. I have to specify that this is not a tier list. Please spare me, Dead by Daylight fanbase. Please have an ounce of mercy. Now, you may be ready to begin the list, and I am too. However, I need to specify something real quick. I do not own every killer, hence why I put an asterisk in the title. I don't have a super lot of money, so while I do own majority of the killer roster, 7 of them are still locked for me at this moment. These are the Legion, who I never bought because their gameplay just looks uninteresting to me. Cool cosmetics though. The Plague, the Blight, Chucky, and Vecna can all be summed up to just me not getting around to it yet. And finally, the Twins and the Skull Merchant. Cause one was broken for 99% of their existence, and the other, I'd rather not see my own house address in the in-game chat. And final disclaimer, I promise you for realsies guys, all the footage for this was gotten by playing against bots and custom game lobbies. One of the main reasons I don't play DBD way more often is because my Wi-Fi simply is not stable enough most days. Hell, most of the games against bots has a significant amount of lag anyways, and one game as a Singularity literally just didn't work, and all the bots ended up DCing against me in the loading screen because my Wi-Fi died for a minute. So take all of that into account, and we can finally start the list now with number 29. Well, as soon as I mentioned that this isn't a tier list and it's just a personal fun list from the eyes of an under triple-digit hour beginner, I feel like most of you could guess who would be dead last. Last place for me is the Nurse. Easily considered to be the best killer in the whole game, and for obvious reasons, mainly being that she could just straight up teleport and just not do loops. It does come at a steep price. That price being that she is not beginner friendly whatsoever. You have to be able to successfully mind game your opponent, be able to tell exactly where they're going, and be able to predict and play every card perfectly if you want to curb stomp as the Nurse. This requires good add-ons, good map RNG, good map knowledge in general, and being able to play around most survivor perks. If you know the game inside and out, Nurse is probably really easy, as you're able to guess and chain blink around, causing survivors to constantly scurry away, delaying the objective. However, if you're new to the game, or hell, new to the Nurse in general, it's just not going to be fun. The slowdown you get for finishing a blink is rough, and not being able to know exactly how far your blink goes for without an add-on led to me teleporting around to a perfect position, but just going a tiny bit too far and completely whiffing it, and because of the cooldown after your blink ends, they completely run away. I understand and can see why she is so broken, and the undisputed queen of all the killers. However, she's bottom my list because I just didn't have any fun. Number 28. If it's not obvious, killers that require a good sense of mind games, game knowledge, and map knowledge will probably be lower down on my list. And one killer I could not for the life of me get to work was the Spirit. I really tried. I ran a build I thought would be good, got destroyed. A build that I find decent for how I play got destroyed. And then even went to an Ots Darva best builds for each killer video and still got destroyed. Her main ability, the phase walk, makes it so survivors can't see you, however it also makes it so you can't see them. You have to rely on audio such as footsteps, breathing, grunts of pain, or very subtle visual cues such as grass moving. That means that on some maps such as Hawking's or Larry's, it's audio or nothing. Plus, I found that the AI still saw me when I phase walked, so there was no point in using it besides a speed boost to catch up to them. While at most I could get 2 kills a match, for the most part I struggled and barely even got 1 survivor injured before the 3rd fucking generator was popping right in front of my face. I just didn't have a good time with the spirit. Number 27. I felt really powerless as the Cenobite. Playing as Pinhead Larry was not a fun time. All pain, no pleasure. The chain shot felt hard to maneuver, and the collision with random things just kept pissing me off more and more. Plus, the AI would wait to solve the limit configuration until I picked up a survivor, so no matter if I let them back down or hooked them, it would be too late and they were on the other side of the map anyways, so even if I did make it in time, all I could do is teleport and cancel my chain hunt. It was a constant lose-lose-lose situation. Playing as Pinhead was probably the most angry I've gotten at the game, and I've faced off against bully squads and sore loser survivors before. I just felt helpless constantly, and like no matter what, I never played him right or was in the right position to do anything. I can kinda see why people would play him. You have good map knowledge and knowledge on the game's very inconsistent collision, you could be a beast as Pinhead. But as it stands, I can't put the Cenobite at higher than 27. Number 26. Guys, look, it's me when I mention my taste in music. The Clown is simply a meh killer for me. I don't know what it is, but even though I did pretty good as him for my first time, I just felt nothing. If anything, I honestly just felt bored. There was nothing really intriguing about the Clown to me. His yellow bottles helped me speed up, purple slowed down survivors, throw purple, chase, throw again, down them, hook them, reload, rinse, repeat. It just felt really repetitive, and when I finally won the game, I was like, okay. If I lost, I probably would have had the same reaction. I just felt a painful nothing towards this killer. Number 25. Next up is a killer who I think is probably way more fun to play against than as. I'm talking about everyone's favorite country bumpkin, the Hillbilly. Hillbilly was fun in his sense of spraying around the map, however that's all I could really give him. This is one of the few killers where I find my Wi-Fi actually does come into play, as tapping the charge for his chainsaw and waiting for a good time to release it and sprint the survivor often ended up costing me, as my game lagging for even a second would cause the charge to be filled and I'd go flying into something I didn't mean to and completely lose my shot of winning the chase. Not to mention, patented behavior interactive inconsistent collision leads to some loops being surprisingly safe to play on, but some are weirdly a nightmare. Some maps are just basically impossible to play on too, such as Larry's, Hawking's, hell, even the Borgo. God, I hate the Borgo. And while the overcharge mechanic is a welcome addition, and I think definitely helped us if he kept his old overheat mechanic, then he definitely would have been lower down than he already is, I think the turning on him is just horrible, and with the sudden burst of speed, it can definitely throw some players off. I am some players. I didn't have a bad time as Billy, but he just isn't my cup of tea, and I probably won't be choosing him anytime soon. Number 24. Number 24 is a killer I have a weird stance on that, in a way, I like it. I think it's fun, but in another way, God, is it just really blah for me. The Xenomorph was a killer I was excited for when it got announced, but actually playing it is just kind of a meh feeling for me. The tail attack is pretty good and can up way more often, and I find isn't tricky to use at all. In fact, it's rather easy for me. But the area that I feel is blah with the Xenomorph comes with everything else. I find the lower camera on the crawling mode can be more a deterrent than anything, as on some maps, such as any swamp map, you can barely see through the grass. The turrets, while I understand the reasoning for them being there, I find it just more annoying, and often I just lose my power, break them, go into a tunnel, and then get my power back. If the turrets actually had more of a penalty, I would understand, but by being able to destroy it and then travel 5 feet away to get your power back makes it just feel worthless for both sides. The tunnels are a great way to gain your power back and for traversing the map, but they do tend to spawn in kind of stupid locations. I want to really like the Xenomorph. Like I said, I like the tail attack and am pretty good with it, but I just feel nothing. it just feels too balanced, like almost sanitized of any real strategy. Its add-ons are all right, but nothing changes the game really. Once you played one Xenomorph match, you've played a good majority of the rest of them. It just feels too samey really. Number 23. I know that almost every choice in this list so far has been a hashtag hot take moment here, but in my opinion, this is the hardest killer to play as, but one of the most rewarding and best designed killers in my personal opinion. Number 23 is the Singularity. Right off the bat, if this list was based on design and character concept, Singularity is easily top 3. But gameplay-wise, Singularity is just too demanding for me to want to play consistently. To be able to run all of these things in the back of your head is beyond demanding and requires insane levels of game knowledge. The areas as to where to set up your biopods, when to use them, either for surveillance or mid-chase, when and if you can slipstream at certain moments, to be able to set up the perfect web of pods, to be able to replace them should survivors EMP them, to his entire viability rests in the hands of the user's ability to use the biopods effectively. And fun fact, this has nothing to do with this ranking, but I thought it was funny. When getting footage from him, the first game I got was on Hawkins, and my game was bugged, so I couldn't even use my biopods, meaning I just didn't have a power. But like I said, I found him fun and really rewarding to play. However, due to how much you have to keep track of and how much you need to be locked in every single trial, it just leads me wanting to play less brain power focused killers, meaning that sadly, he must be at number 23. Number 22. The Nightmare is just fine. Freddy Krueger has nothing really going for him. He has dream snares, which, okay. He can teleport to generators, which, okay. Literally everything he does is done better by other killers. His teleport is long and drawn out, the dream world grants some decent passive effects of making you undetectable, and the snares, I honestly do not know what the snares actually do. He's a passable killer, and if you want a killer to learn the basics of the game with, Freddy is actually a decent choice. Nothing terrible about him, but nothing good either. Perfectly meh, and a good point as we go on from meh and mediocre killers to killers I think are pretty okay. Although it must be said, docked points for being pedo Freddy from the 2010 movie. I know it was out of behavior's control, but still. Number 21. The Cannibal for me is like if Hillbilly and Nightmare had a child, and no, I have no other way to describe it. Leatherface is next in line with the basic and kinda lacking killers. Bubba's chainsaw, to me, suffers from a lot of the same problems that I said Hillbilly's chainsaw suffer from, mainly being bad hit detection, and if you lag at all, it can make you completely mess up your chainsaw swings, or swing too early and bump into something you didn't intend to. However, with Bubba, it feels way less like a crutch. Whereas Hillbilly's chainsaw makes the character with his insane mobility, Bubba feels more like it's just an addition. He feels more like a basic killer like Freddy, however with an insta-down. Again, a fine killer to learn the basics with, but feels pretty bare bones. Still having an insta-down is better and more rewarding than whatever the hell the dream snares do. Sorry for making you catch all these strays, Freddy. Number 20. This is a killer where I feel like I understand why so many people have it ranked so low, but also I personally don't find them that terrible in most regards. The Dredge is a weird killer for me. Like Singularity, if we're talking about design, then easy top 3. But unlike Singularity, Dredge suffers from having a basic power that attempts to be more than what it can realistically do. Dredge's power mainly boils down to having a passive effect like the Nightmare, where once people are in it, you become undetectable. However, unlike Freddy, you can't hit people into it and they can't leave from it. Nightfall makes it so everything is extremely dark and hard to see. It makes you undetectable and is on a timer, so everyone is in Nightfall at once for the same amount of time. However, take Nightfall out of the equation, and all Dredge has is a slow teleport to lockers and the ability to deny loops with a remnant that it can teleport back to. However, as long as you're in Nightfall, you're great. Your locker teleport becomes way faster, and that's it. Dredge can be fun to play as. I mean, occasionally during the trial, you go from being mediocre to actually being relatively good. But for the most part, your power is weak and pointless, meaning you're just a killer with no power until Nightfall is active. It's a fun killer, but only in parts. Number 19. This is a killer where I think the term easy to learn, hard to master comes into play. Pyramid Head as a killer can be pretty fun, and it's a really good killer as well. While his add-ons are honestly quite useless in most regards, his power more than makes up for it. Leaving behind a trail, if a survivor steps on it, they become tormented. And while most of the time the trail won't really come into much effect unless put into cheeky situations, his ranged attack punishment of the damned means that if a survivor cheeses a loop too much, you can just snipe them through a wall. Most of the fun as Pyramid Head comes from either leading them to the trap of your trail or denying them him the ability to loop you for half of the game. However, to use his power effectively, given its long and obvious charge animation, plus the trail's wonky movements, makes it so that you can't really do well or feel like you're doing well. Most of the time he feels like an M1 killer when all of his power comes from, well, his power. The most fun part though is easily downing a tormented survivor and then sending them to the Cage of Atonement, which teleports them to a random spot in the map and acts as a hook, meaning that it can feel really good to use against a team of spam sabotaging survivors. The Executioner does what he needs to perfectly, and while on the surface it may seem simple, beginners are hit with a tough learning curve, which means oftentimes you do get outplayed, which is why I don't have a much higher than this. Number 18. The Artist, much like other killers around this placement, are easy to learn, hard to master. Most of the fun from the Artist comes from sniping people across the map with their birds. You see a generator being worked on with discordance, you set up a bird, you send it, they run away towards you shooting the birds. Simple. However, to use her effectively and to get all the maneuvers down can be a tough task. Her birds only go in straight lines, which on most maps is great. However, take her to Midwich or any map that has multiple elevation levels and she is cooked. I found it to be really satisfying landing a cross-map bird shot. However, seeing as how unless I chased them 5 nanoseconds after they got hit, they would just shoot the birds instantly, did make it kind of disappointing. Like, there was fun had with this killer, but also a whole lot of, oh, that's it then? As I wondered what the birds actually did besides just making tracking easier. And look cool too, I guess. A fun killer, a fun theme, but a lot of just meh after you land the cool cross-map shot. Number 17. Well, we finally made it to the second killer of the original trio in the list, and he's definitely one that you can tell is the oldest. The Trapper is the poster boy of Dead by Daylight, and often the first killer you pick up when you first play the game. However, his 8-year-old shine has definitely worn off by now. His power is simply to place bear traps around the map. Now in the footage I am using an add-on that allows me to start with all my bear traps, and that's because all of his bear traps are unset and everywhere around the map, meaning that you have to waste time to go find them and either pick them up or set them, otherwise they do nothing. Most of the fun with Trapper was just chasing someone into a trap or hearing that they got caught halfway across the map. Other than that, having to take an entire field day around the map to get your power and losing time and generator progress all the way is such an unnecessary feature of his power that just leads to you having to camp a hook in order to make up for lost time, which isn't fun for either side. Surprising how the first killer they want you to play is also one of the worst ways to learn. Again, I understand why he is the way he is, but unless you bring an add-on or get good map RNG, it's hard to have a lot of fun with Trapper, but when your web of traps goes perfectly, you feel like a king. Number 16. Speaking of traps, the Hag is a lot like the Trapper in a lot of ways. Both are early killers in the game's life cycle, both involve traps, both have similar flaws. While the Hag starts with all her traps, she still has to go set them all up, allowing her to teleport to them whenever a survivor triggers them. The issue with her mainly being that if a survivor outside your terror radius triggers the trap, you can't teleport to it, meaning that the traps are kinda useless outside of chase. Again, like Trapper, a lot of the fun comes from having a web of traps trigger and everything goes to plan, but when they don't, it's just kinda sad. I felt way more powerful as Hag than as Trapper and had more fun overall, however at the cost of her lows feeling much worse than his ever did. Number 15. I've said this twice now, but seriously, when it comes to design and concept, this killer is easily my number 1 pick. The Unknown as a killer is amazing. Every part of it feels smooth and thought out. It feels well designed and balanced while leaving a bunch of room open for counterplay on both sides. As a beginner, it feels friendly with its simple power and having a teleport, but in the hands of an expert, it can steamroll whole groups of unready survivors. My main issue really is that the whole weakened mechanic feels like it doesn't really do much unless you manage to hit the survivor directly with a projectile, and even then that only applies hindrance for 3 seconds without add-ons. I had a fun time with this killer, no doubt, and would love to understand it more, insert joke about it being beyond understanding here, but seriously, this is the part where I had mainly fun with most of the killers going forward, and the Unknown is a great killer to start with. Just wish it had better teachable perks. Number 14. This one may be a tiny bit controversial. Number 14 is the Trickster. Out of all the projectile-focused killers, being him, Plague, Huntress, and Deathslinger, with the exception of Plague, because like I said in the intro, I don't own her, Trickster is probably the least fun. Now don't get me wrong, he's number 14 for a reason. While Huntress is about sniping and Deathslinger is about denying loops, Trickster is the king of spam. Throw all your knives at a group of survivors and watch his main event builds up in no time. Plus, having the highest projectile count means you can 1v1 a cornered survivor if you want, but to play him effectively, you need to catch them in groups, which is where a lot of the fun kind of goes down for me personally. Most survivors, when they see him, will know this and not group together, leading to you becoming just a weak killer. Now sure, he may be weak, but to say it isn't satisfying watching someone go down after they eat half their blades would be a lie. Plus, having a reload add-on equipped and running Iron Maiden leads to his reload animation being so fast it bugs out, and I just find that mostly amusing. My only real complaint is that often you'll get main event at the worst time when there is no one around, and you won't be able to capitalize on it in time by the time you find another survivor. So if all goes well, Trickster can be a ton of fun, not to mention having some of the best cosmetics in the game. But if it all doesn't go well, he can still be fun, but it shows how weak he really is. However, before we move on, I must say, as of 8.0.2, which is the most recent version of the game now it is of writing the script, there is a bad bug with him on the survivor side, where when he hits you with the blades enough, the screen begins to freak out and can cause a lot of issues for hypersensitive and seizure-prone people. It isn't a very consistent bug, but it happens enough to be a pretty bad issue. He hasn't been kill switched yet, but for the time being, I wouldn't run Trickster against public lobbies. Just my choice. Number 13. This is one of the only killers I could think of where I had more fun goofing off than trying to play him seriously. Number 13 is the Wraith. Hands down, I think he's alright. His power feels met, and realistically I would put him around the 20s if I was playing him seriously. But I didn't. I had so much fun playing Wraith, just running around and spamming my bell at everything. I could care less about getting the hits or denying loops or sneaking up or anything. Just chasing someone and ringing the bell and circling around them as I keep ringing the bell stimulated my simple mind enough. I was having a ball just doing that. And to all who run the add-on to silence his bell, how dare you? You are now my number one enemy. Let my boy Wraith bing bong in peace. I love running around the map and just spam ringing. I truly am only placing him this high because I found that to be the most amusing thing about him. Number 12. The Shape is a killer that is actually really fun casually, not to mention can be a total game wiper at those casual levels as well. Being able to silently jump scare people in tier 1 is fun as hell, tier 2 just makes him a normal killer, and then tier 3 is where the fun begins. Being able to stalk someone barely across the map and to activate tier 3 and to start insta-downing all in your way makes you feel like a monster. The main downside of Michael is that that's kind of it. Most of his fun is super fun with running around in tier 3 or silently preying on people in tier 1. However, tier 2 makes him so he's just a basic normal nothing killer. Like I said, I love the fun you can have with them. However, most of the time you're just sort of basic, and if the game goes long enough and you stalk enough people, then you kind of just lose your power and become a normal vanilla killer, which kind of stinks. Number 11. The Pig is a killer that honestly I feel bad for using. Like, I had a lot of twisted fun playing as her and chasing them around my opponents asking if they want to play a game and saving all the reverse bear traps for the end game so that way you can keep tormenting them around is fun as well. However, against humans, I don't know. I found her way more fun than she had any right to be, but I just honestly kind of feel bad if I were to pick her for a public match. Plus, her ambush isn't really useful, but I always dig the ability to crouch and be more stealthy. I love being able to impede survivor objectives though, and playing her is a blast. Even if I lose, I still feel like a sick sadistic prick, which is exactly the point behind her. It's a lose-lose for survivors, and if you suffer at Jin slowdown, she is a great killer to learn the basics for it. Her power rewards you for letting it snowball, and when it does, it feels so rewarding. Oftentimes rather cheap rewards, but rewards nonetheless. Plus, even with how cheap she might feel, she does have a good bit of counterplay, mainly being just a blooper for the whole game, and if you do waste all your traps too early, then you may be struggling towards the end when they take take them all off and you have none left. Still, if you find that happy medium, you can get the ball rolling and could definitely have some insane amounts of fun, as long as you don't mind feeling a bit like you're cheesing the game. Number 10. If we're talking about killers that feel insanely rewarding to play as, look no further than this killer. The Oni is insane, simply just for the fact of absorbing all the blood orbs left behind and getting your power. Being able to mad dash around and insta-down anyone in your way feels insanely good. And even if the movement is wonky and honestly even harder to maneuver than Hillbilly's chainsaw, being able to be from one side of the map to the other in no time is insanely rewarding. Plus, the blood orbs honestly make it easier to track survivors in my opinion, so he can help newcomers as well. I actually don't have any complaints with the Oni. He's well designed, viable for more serious play, fun as hell, can have some crazy techs, and is absolutely rewarding at all levels. Number 9. The Mastermind is a killer that I don't really understand much about, being truthfully honest. But I still had a blast playing him though. Wesker's dash feels sick as hell to hit and makes you feel insanely powerful. The Ouroboros infection mechanic does feel like the weakest out of the 3 sickness-based powers, however it doesn't feel weak at all. Being able to dash over vaults and pallets just to throw your prey to Kingdom Come and down them because of it feels amazing. You really do feel like an unstoppable mastermind, being able to do whatever. His add-ons add to the evilness, such as exposing survivors should they cleanse themselves of Ouroboros. Plus, playing games with my good friend Ball made me realize that friends till the end on Wesker is literally a walking death sentence, and not even distortion can help you. A killer that is extremely deadly, has a lingering effect, is great in chase and ambushes, and has great mobility all on top of that, and is fun at all skill levels without needing to be overly complex. The Mastermind is amazing. Number 8. If I said that I felt bad for using the pig, then this killer definitely makes me feel like an asshole. The Doctor is nothing short of just being evil, in design, lore, and how you're supposed to play him. All of his fun comes from shocking survivors and making them go insane, letting them be unable to escape you and chase with his forward shock attack, and making sure they can't hide from you with his big area shock attack. Not to mention specializing in guarding generators and playing keep away, Doctor is the killer you play if you just want to be an ass for a bit and not feel bad about it. He is extremely satisfying to play, and even if he does feel really cheap at times, my only issue with him is that his add-ons are essays, so deciding which ones to pick are kind of annoying. But in every other regard, Doctor's a really fun killer, and when I first started playing the game, was one of my 2 mains. And while I definitely have found more fun killers to play as than him, he definitely is still a fun one to pick up and play from time to time. Number 7. This one is honestly the most shocking one for me, and I still don't know why I like her so much. The Onryõ is a killer who, for the life of me, just felt like she needed to be this high. I just didn't feel right placing her down lower, but I just can't explain why. I really do find her fun, but it's weird because I really don't know what she does. Like, she has the condemned effect, but I don't know how to build it up effectively. Her manifest and demanifest is just basically Wraith's whole power mixed with Freddy's gen teleport ability, and for the most part she just kind of exists. I had a real blast playing as her, which is why I have to rank Sadako so high up, but for the life of me I just can't explain it well. Even if I do bad, I still feel like I'm having fun. I just can't put it into words to describe it. I just like Sadako, man. Number 6. This is the point of the list where honestly, the rankings don't matter much, and any day these can change on the flip of a dime. So that being said, I would like to introduce you to my top 6 favorite killers to play. My main 6, if you will. Starting off with number 6, the Ghostface. I feel like I can sum up why I like Ghostface in one simple 4-word sentence. The shape, but good. Literally almost the exact same power as Michael Myers, but actually just good. Being able to crouch and peek around corners does wonders for him. Plus, with his ability not being limited, it means that he doesn't just lose his power at some point. That the being stared at mechanic to counteract this does feel kind of weird at times, but for the most part is fine. I never actually played Ghosty until now to get footage for this video, and holy hell did I have a blast. I didn't even know what I was doing really, I was just happy to be there. Getting an insta-down always feels sweet, so being able to successfully be a stalker and getting rewarded with one feels even better. Again, sort of like Wraith, I have more fun just peeking around and being a stuffy little bitch than anything. I like how he feels, I like how he plays, I love his sound design, I love his power, everything about Ghostface is perfect. Number 5. Speaking of killers that I feel are designed perfectly, the Huntress is, in simple terms, the best designed killer in the game. I'm being serious. Sure, map collision sucks ass, but when does it not in this game? Huntress is simple and easy to learn. Throw hatchet at survivor and they get hurt. Simple. Whether it's getting a shot at a vaulting survivor 5 feet in front of you, or it's a cross-map epic sniper shot, her hatchets feel like they hurt and feel amazing to hit. Not to mention, because of her power's design, means that she really has no skill ceiling. It can only go up for her. Not to mention her terror radius being a creepy lullaby, and she also doubles as one of the scariest killers to go against. She is a total package of simplicity and power. A perfectly well-designed killer whose entire purpose is for you to go for some crazy orbital strike and then hit it and lose your shit over it. Number 4. This is another one which honestly surprised me for wanting to rank them up here so high, much like Onryõ. The Nemesis is a killer that I don't know why I have so high, but I do. His tentacle strike is honestly the main selling point to me, much like Huntress's hatchets. It feels super rewarding to hit, and getting it to tier 3 makes it become a menace. The zombies are next to useless, I will say. However, managing to run a survivor right into one for a quick down can feel really fun if pulled off. Plus, again, the sound design is great, and seeing Nemesis mutate as the match goes on and his power grows adds to the suspense and the thrill. Not to mention, his animations are just really amusing to me. Just punching a breakable wall down with just one punch will never not be entertaining. Punching survivors right in the face with an M1, stomping on everything, and being up there with the Oni as the biggest killer in the game shows that simply being a giant killing machine is fun. Plus, infecting survivors covers them in blue spots around, which look really cool, not gonna lie. I really find Nemesis fun and also just a well-designed killer. Besides her balance, I can't really think of any bad things about him, and even with that in play, he still manages to hold his own rather decently. Number 3. And finally, we've reached the part of the list where these are definitely and confidently my main picks. I love all 3 of these killers to death, and it was hard to choose the order they came in, but these are my top 3 favorite killers to play in Dead by Daylight. The Knight is a killer that, even though I know he's currently in a bad spot, at least before 8.1.0 comes out, and that he promotes an unhealthy game style and all that, I don't care. He's just fun to play and badass as hell, and I will die on this hill. Being a big foreboding knight with a gigantic claymore as your weapon and summoning ghost companions to chase down survivors just sounds cool as shit. Being able to summon the Carnifex, who excels at breaking pallets, walls, and damaging generators, the Assassin, who excels at chasing down survivors and when he hits them causes you to see them with killer instinct, and then finally the Jailer, who excels at patrolling a path, allows for a lot of strategy and different ways to play around loops in certain areas of certain maps. It requires you to get some game knowledge and good map RNG, yes, but for the most part it isn't too terrible. The only current issue I have is that because all the guards come out in a set order, it means you can oftentimes accidentally send out the wrong guard at the wrong time, but this isn't too terrible because most guards have similar stats anyways. The Knight has a great chase theme, some great animations, and probably my favorite Mori in the whole game. Even if he's buggy as all can be, and yes, often leads to having to play in less fun ways, i.e. camping, the Knight is one of my favorite killers. Most of the time, pausing a chase to send out a guard can result in them running away, meaning there is some risk reward when it comes to him as well. He can be both brain dead at times, but also very strategic, and like I said earlier, he's just badass as hell. Number 2. This is a killer that for the longest time, I thought I was never gonna get to play ever. I thought I had missed my chance already, but thankfully, it came back, and I ended up enjoying him even more than I ever once thought I would have. Number 2 is the Demogorgon, and holy, I never thought I would ever be able to say that. When Behavior announced that Stranger Things got added back to the game, I made sure to pick up the DLC, and to be honest, I'm not even a fan of Stranger Things. I just wanted it mainly because A, I heard Demo was a solid killer, and B, its common perks would become teachables again, so I would lose the perks in all characters that didn't already have them, which really sucked because Surge is one of my favorite perks to use. But actually getting around to playing Demogorgon opened my eyes and opened them wide. He was solid and fun as hell. I loved playing Demogorgon and quickly became one of my favorite killers to play. When my number 1 pick is too much work or my Wi-Fi is bad and Night just doesn't seem appealing some days, I often just pick Demogorgon and run with it for a few hours. The teleports are nice to use and feel fair and balanced. Shred is an amazing lunge attack that feels great no matter if you break a pallet or manage to get a hit. It feels weird because by all accounts, Demogorgon is the poster boy for the perfectly balanced killers. None of his add-ons are super OP, none of his moves are insta-downs, his teleport is easy to counter and get rid of. But Demogorgon just feels insanely rewarding. It feels like it takes some skill and thinking while also being simple enough to where you can just pick up and go. Like I said, I don't understand why I like Demo as much as I do. I honestly feel like I just can't switch off of him sometimes. Like I have a weird playing Demo addiction. It's just something with how he plays and controls and is perfectly fair and balanced that makes him just trigger the dopamine receptors in my brain. I don't feel any guilt for doing anything with Demo. He just feels great to me. And I love my Demo dog. Number 1. This is the killer that single-handedly made me a Dead by Daylight fan to begin with, and was the one that sparked my interest with the game from the very beginning. My pick for the most fun killer to play as in Dead by Daylight in the eyes of a beginner, in my personal main, is the Deathslinger. So, for some context as to why Deathslinger got me into Dead by Daylight. Back in April of 2020, I was big into Red Dead Redemption 2. I had just beat the game and it was my main hyperfixation at the time. Around the same time, I had Xbox Game Pass and I saw Dead by Daylight on it. Recognizing it from its 2016 days of Markiplier and Jacksepticeye playing it together, I downloaded it and the first thing I saw was the trailer for the most recent DLC at the time, Chains of Hate. And seeing a cowboy killer at that time with that hyperfixation was a match made in heaven. And while I didn't stick around playing DBD on Xbox One, and it took until 2022 for me to pick up the game on PC and actually start playing it for realsies, I basically had the killer I needed to try first picked out in my head, and I made sure I bought Deathslinger along with the game. And let me just say, I was not at all disappointed. His mechanic is simple. He shoots you with the harpoon gun. You shoot the survivor, reel them in, hit them, reload, chase them, and down them, repeat. Or better yet, shoot an injured survivor, reel them in, hit them, down them, hook them, reload, repeat. Very simple steps, but with any simple knowledge from any other FPS game, you can quickly turn his power into your bitch. Not accounting for behaviors great and amazing collision and what counts as breaking your chain and what doesn't. See, remember in the beginning how I mentioned that you had to develop all new game sense when playing DBD because of how different it is compared to other games? Well, Deathslinger ignores that, because he just has a normal-ass gun with normal-ass gun physics. Whether it's a point-blank shot and quick hit combo, or it's a snipe from afar, or it's just to hold them for longer even though you know you can't get them before the chain breaks, there really isn't a downside to spearing someone. Sure, a good bit of the time you'll miss due to bad hitboxes, but when you do hit, it feels great. Much like Huntress before him, Deathslinger feels like he has infinite potential just due to the nature of how he works. His power always allows him to think outside the box and do more crazy or weird strategies, and never really get penalized for it outside of reloading, which you'd have to do anyways if you'd hit the shot. For multiple reasons, this is why I choose Deathslinger as my personal main, and the killer I find to be the most fun as a beginner in Dead by Daylight. Come on. No, you fucking left with me! You fucking left with me shooting you in the face!
Yep.
So you just basically just stole my harpoon with you. Fuck you! Before the video ends, I just want to say, I really do love this game and would love to play more and make more content on it in the future. So if that is something you're looking forwards to, please let me know and I'd be glad to consider doing more. And also, thank you all for getting me to 600 subscribers and for this being my 200th video uploaded to this channel. I wanted to do something special for you guys and do something that I personally wanted to do for a while now, so I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, thank you all so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and even share the video if you liked it that much. And as always, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys!